Can we handle any more talk about Jane Austen? I don't know about you, but I can. And so join me today as I talk with Vanessa Riley, who's the author of the brand new Regency era mystery, Murder in Westminster. It's the first in a new historical mystery series featuring a Black leading lady, Lady Worthing. Take a listen as we talk about her mystery, Jane Austen, and pretty much anything else that happens to come to mind. My name is Art, and welcome to the Bookshelf Odyssey podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Before we get to the interview with Vanessa, I do want to take just a quick minute to do some updates and some news here. First of all is that although in the interview I was still in the middle of reading the book, or I think I hadn't started it yet, but I did finish that book, and it was a fantastic read. I would highly recommend it if you wanted a Regency era mystery with a fascinating heroine. And Vanessa will mention that she wants to turn this book into a series, so a long ongoing series, and I can't wait for book 2. I also wanted to let you know that on September 21st, I will be live on YouTube at 8 p.m. on another podcast's live stream. I'll be the guest of Christmas Clatter. It's a Christmas podcast, and as you might know, I also have a Christmas podcast, and I will be on their live stream to talk about the Christmas book and movie, The Mistletoe Promise. And that's by Richard Paul Evans. So if you don't know this about me, I love Christmas. I mean, I have a whole podcast dedicated to Christmas and Christmas stories. So I'd love for you to check that out if you haven't. I'd love for you to join us live on YouTube again, it's September 21st at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And if you're able to jump in on the chat, we'd love to see you there. I love to talk about Christmas all year round, especially these 4 months of the year are some of my favorite months to talk about these things. So we'd love to see you there if you're able. And keep watching out on my social medias. I will be linking the link there and promoting it on both my booktube channel as well as my Christmas channel. All those details will be in the show notes as well, and we'd love to see you there. So with that, we'll get over to the interview, and we'll talk to Vanessa Riley about her book, Murder in Westminster. My guest today is Vanessa Riley. She is the author of of historical fiction, mystery, and romances set in the Georgian, Regency, and Victorian eras, and they all feature hidden histories, dazzling multicultural communities, and strong sisterhoods. She has a brand new book coming out called Murder in Westminster. It's the first book in the Lady Worthing series, and it's described as, you got a copy there, beautiful. I love the cover on that. It really caught my attention. That's coming out September?
It comes out August 30th. The book underneath it is beautiful.
Oh, look at that. I love a good, well-made book. That's nice.
So that new book smell. It's just great.
Yeah. If you're listening on the podcast, you're really missing out on the visual here. So
they should get the book, and then they will have the visual too.
There you go. Vanessa, thank you for coming on the Bookshelf Odyssey. Appreciate it.
Oh, I love being here, so thank you.
So your book is coming out at end of August, and like I said, it sounds really fascinating. In July, I had been part of a Jane Austen July is what they call it, and we read a lot of Regency era stories and Jane Austen works. So then I think that's probably what caught my eye when I was looking at books coming out here in the fall. So I'm glad this worked out to have you on.
Oh, thank you. Once again, thank you for having me. And the fact that you are doing a Jane Austen thing just makes me, just well up inside.
Yes. Oh, she is a favorite. And there's a group of us that have book channels on YouTube that they organized this, started doing it a couple years ago. And every July, we just take time to read one of her books as a community, to read books in the Regency era. Some really interesting, fascinating topics of discussion they've had, and it's helped me develop an even greater appreciation for Jane Austen. So, it's a lot of fun.
People often portray her as a historical romance writer.
Mm-hmm.
She was a contemporary writer. She's writing about things that are happening in that day. And you see all the sub themes about the abolition movement, the wars, the different class, the tiered class structure because of the money and who has it and who wants it. There's just so much going on. I believe that's why her work still resonates, because she captured so much in her novels. And so I'm excited about her, and there's groups that are still writing about her. She's an amazing woman.
Yeah. And I had on a recent video I was talking about it, and even how it's for everyone. I hear a lot, oh, Jane Austen, that's a woman's book, but that gets my hackles up. No. You need to read her. There's a lot going on, like you said. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, since you're a new guest on, I'd like to start off asking some really hard questions of my visitors here. What is your favorite book? Or I should say, currently, what is your favorite book? 1 or 2 choices is acceptable.
So I must give you 3.
Okay, go for it.
So one of my favorite books is Beverly Jenkins' Something Like Love, because you get history, you get funny, you get a bit of intrigue. So to me, it's this perfect blend. Walter Mosely, particularly his Easy Rawlins series. It's one of my favorite mystery sets, because you go behind the scenes and you see this detective trying to do life while he's solving murders. And that was, to me, very impactful when I was writing this series about Lady Worthing, because I want to take you behind the scenes so that you see her life, you see the politics and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And let's see, I must say probably the Rose Code and Wild Women of the Blues are up there. Different. Mm-hmm. One's a war book, one is 1920s, but different perspectives of what women are doing. Kate Quinn is showing you what women are doing as they're, mathing and they're doing all these great things. And Denny Bryce is showing you the flappers, but black flappers and things like that. So I love different, unique, and that behind the scenes look at things.
And then my follow-up question would be, have you read anything recently that you could recommend? Although, as you said, you're in kind of revision mode right now with some of your work.
Revision mode it's a black hole, it's a void. And unless you're a textbook, a history book, I don't read during that time frame, because I call it sticky brain, right? Mm-hmm. I will start sticking things in, and when I'm in revisions, I have to stay to my time periods, because I don't want to mess up the dresses. I don't want to mess up the dialect that speaks and actual dates and things like that. So I'm not really, I cannot wait to be out of revision, so I have a lot of things on my shelf. Kate Quinn's Diamond Eye, Beverly Jenkins' The Raven. There's just so many books that are just coming out. Sarah McLean just came out with a brand new series. Said Deanna Rayburn has a new mystery series. There's just stuff.
I love it. Now I'm mentally adding to my TBR list now. Like, oh, this sounds good. Yeah. I've been listening to book podcasts before I started mine, and that kind of helped inspire me to do my own. But there's been a couple that I've really just added to my TBR list, and it's so long now. I just had to come to terms with the fact that I'm not going to read all the books I want to before I die. So I'll make a try. But yeah. Well, let's talk about your new book, Murder at Westminster. What's it about? Again, beautiful cover there, but walk us through what your story's about.
I had just finished a lot of research in Saint Domingue, Haiti, the revolution, for a historical fiction that came out this year, Sister Mother Warrior. And I stumbled across this really interesting fact that after Haiti becomes 3, all the abolition movements in the world stop. So the famous people that we know, like Thomas Collins, um, Wilberforce, William Wilberforce, they're stuck. They don't know how to get the movement started. So it's literally, we were good with y'all being free, but now y'all want to run stuff. Oh, we've got to see how this is going to work out. And so I picture this heroine who has privilege, who knows she has privilege. Mm-hmm. She's accepted in some ballrooms. She's not accepted in others. She's got money, which means she has access. She wants to get the movement started, but she also likes to solve things. She's a puzzler. She's a sleuth. And so in the middle of her starting to stretch her wings in society, the neighbor's wife is found dead on her fence, and she's been fighting with the neighbor, the estranged woman's husband, because he's got these greyhounds, beautiful dogs, and she has a terrier, and of course the two greyhounds are terrorizing her terrier. It's kind of the other way around, but hence they're fussing, they're fighting, so they put up this. He decides to put a fence between their properties, and now his estranged wife, is found dead, but on her side of the fence. And Abby, being a woman of color, a Black woman during this time frame, and her neighbor is a war hero. Who they gonna believe? Mm-hmm. So she knows she has to solve this mystery, and the neighbor gives an alibi for the both of them. So she has to work with him, who she doesn't like, to solve this mystery, and she believes he did it. So, but she can't expose him without exposing herself, unless she can find the true killer. So it's complicated, and I'm taking you into this world, and I think you're going to have a wild ride.
All right. Well, that sounds really neat. And like I said, I was kind of in Jane Austen mode, and then I saw that and I thought, oh, all right, I got to check that out. And I love that it's a new series now. And you told me that you have hopes and plans that this will be a long running series.
Yes. And I would love to see 30 books out of this world.
Yeah.
I mean, a historical detective, Regency, there are a few woman of color, Black woman. You don't see that. At least that I've read, and I've read quite a lot. There's a moment, it's a space and time, the early 1800s, because you have all the revolutions that are happening. You have all these pushes for abolition. You have expanding the world with trade. And so that's the great explorers are going all around the world. So you've got this time frame of chaos and starting to try and be enlightened and in freedom of movement. And Jane taught, there's much more freedom of movement, of capital and people in places that you wouldn't expect, because, sometimes we get sold on the 1995 version of Pride and Prejudice, the best version, by the way, on the BBC. Uh-huh. And, that showed one filmmaker's vision of what that world looked like. Mm-hmm. The famous scene where Darcy is sweating and he's looking for Wickham and Lydia, and he's walking down the street, and a little boy comes up with a tankard of ale or water or whatever to refresh him. And you don't see a single person of color on that particular street. Mm-hmm. You should have seen this view. I mean, where he was searching in London, you should have seen one. And so one of my missions is to kind of return the level of diversity, the access, the way people found ways to move within the social classes. Mm-hmm. Everything that you heard was no, couldn't have happened, didn't happen. No, it just hasn't been written about, or you haven't read it.
And I think we're starting to see some of that diversity in casting in movies. And if you'd like to comment on that, I know just recently there was a Persuasion that was out on Netflix that had a very diverse casting. Unfortunately, I didn't really enjoy the movie itself, but I don't know if you saw that yet.
I have not seen it. I have seen reviews that frighten me, so I don't know. I am not a purist. right? So I am not going to be, I'm not going to be critical of a filmmaker saying that was not in the book. Film is different than book. Right. And films have to appeal to present day viewers. That's how they make money. But make sure you put the word adaptation when you describe it, because then people will understand what they're getting. Where they're going in. If you expect to go see a movie and they're quoting the exact lines that are in the book, I think you're setting yourself up for failure. That's not going to happen. These are creatives. The actors are going to bring a certain experience to what they're portraying. The directors, the even in the costuming, who they choose to do the costumes, like in Bridgerton, they're not exactly historical in some respects, right? But you can see in the costuming the subtle messages that they want to portray. My favorite are Queen Charlotte's wigs. You saw the extremely French curly lip ones, and then you saw the Afro wig, right, with the big Afro comb. I mean, it's saying this is for everybody. And so there's messaging in it. So once again, who decides to make the film? The screenwriters, the actors themselves. You're going to get something very different in a lot of respects than what's in the book. And if you think about them being two different mediums, the book and the movie, then I think people are going to have a much better time enjoying things.
Right. Yeah. And I've said, I actually, not only expect change, I'm actually kind of excited or intrigued when it happens, because I think it can really say a lot about what's happening in society at the time and kind of reflect the world at the moment. Case in point with the latest Persuasion adaptation, or loose adaptation, I don't know what you call it, but so there was
they have the same name.
They have the same name. I think they probably took a different character and put her into the movie, but anyway, but I like the diversity in it, because it got me thinking, well, how much of this would have, I guess it basically exposed my own ignorance of education, that could this have been played, an actual person of color could have been this person or not, and how would that have worked? And for me, if anything that gets me to look back at history, I always enjoy and appreciate. So before we went on air, we were talking about Jane Austen, and I believe she's one of the most progressive writers. She wrote about real people, so there's really a Mr. Darcy out there. Well, not anymore, he's dead, but at the time there's a real Mr. Darcy. So when you get to Sedition, there's the real Miss Lamb. And then when you dig into Jane's history, and for those who don't know, Miss Lamb is the wealthiest woman in Sanditon, or Sedition, or however you want to pronounce it. I'm Southern / Irish / Trinidadian. You're going to get a mixed up thing, and I just apologize right now. But the wealthiest woman in this book is Miss Lamb, and she's a mulatto woman from the West Indies. When you look at Jane's father had really close friends who owned plantations in Aruba. And oftentimes mixed race children would be given fortunes by their fathers. They would be sent to Scotland, Ireland, or England for education, because everybody knows education is the way for continuing the lineage, bettering of classes, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very possible that she might seen this woman and made a book out of it. And so, and in Mansfield's Park, very open discussions about the abolition movement. Her brother actually is commanding ships that are taking on the slave boats, capturing them and freeing the slaves. This world is much more diverse than anything that we've seen. And so sometimes I think we're writing the scripts, or writing the real history again, because we're shedding, unfortunately, Victorian era,
whitewashing of the plane, and bringing things back to probably the way they really were. I mean, uh, case in point, book that I'm working on with revision. Heck, there's a literal scene at an opera where you have Queen Marie Louise Christophe, ex-queen at this point, sitting on the same row as Napoleon Bonaparte's two brothers. Now, for those of you who don't know history as well, or haven't read System of the Warrior, so that you get a real good Queen Marie is the Queen of Haiti. Haiti defeated France, aka Napoleon Bonaparte, during the war. And here you go, years later, she's at a theater with Napoleon's two brothers on the front row.
Well, things get a little tense, huh?
No, actually, no. They're all at this point, they're all exiles, and it's the exile community. But once again, when you put it in the lens of what we've seen in book, on film, and these sorts of things versus the actual reality, it is so different. So I champion people. We need more historicals put on TV and books to make people think. Like, what's the real history? Let me go and take a look. And I firmly believe any you think that didn't happen. No, that you just haven't read it, or somebody covered up for their relatives because they didn't want it out there.
Yeah. Well, they say history is written by the winners, and unfortunately, we see that coming true all the time. Yeah. Well, I think it's good for us to take that moment and say, wait a minute, is this really how it happened? Is this really what it looked like? And you uncover that, and you find out there's just a wealth of stories to be told that have been covered up or hidden or ignored. And I think we're seeing some of that starting to come out now, and I'm really excited to see what will come.
Exactly. I mean, it's, publishing, that's why we need readers who read diversely, widely. I pride myself on that. I read widely. I read all the time about people who don't look like me. I'm excited about various stories because I just want to know and learn. And I request them at my library. I ask for them at my independent bookstores. I go in Barnes and Nobles and request them because publishers are looking at sales. They're looking at what people, and for a long time, they believe that this is the type of story that people want to see. And this is all that we're going to publish and give bookshelf space to. And now they're saying, wait a minute, if we let the world see these great stories, they're going to buy it. They're going to read it. Who'd have thunk it?
Who knew? Wow. Yeah. Well, I'll never forget a couple of years ago, I started I usually keep track of what I read, but there was this one app that would keep track and divide your reading into statistics and things. And then it showed that overwhelmingly I read from white male authors, which, it's not like that was my intention to set out. I'm only going to read by guys who look like me, but it was kind of oh, wow, I should diversify that a bit. Yeah. And making the effort. And I guess I say, unfortunately, sometimes it has to be an effort because, like you said, they don't think they're not going to sell. So let's just do what sells. But it's really worth it. And just doing the work to dig in and find those voices that may have been silenced, or trying to pick someone who doesn't look like me because, maybe this sounds terrible, but everyone looks like me kind of deal. But no, you know what I mean? It's.
Hey, I see those 6-packs abs. I agree.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, I keep them well hidden. But no, it's not hard for me to find a story with a hero who looks like me, and then to broaden that, and then to hear from readers who almost tears in their eyes say, wow, I found a story with a hero who looks like me, and it just leaves them speechless.
I was a nerd kid, right? So my mom believed in us reading. So we got Shakespeare and Thoreau and all this kind of crazy, Hiawatha stuff in our house. but I always had this passion for Western civilization, particularly the Georgian region era. And I teared up when I read Sanditon because it made sense to me to finally see Charlotte Lamb or Miss Lamb on screen or on the page. And so when you find yourself in a book, it is a moment, and then you begin to ask questions. Why haven't I seen myself before? It doesn't take away from the enjoyment of any of the books that I've read, tens of thousands of books. It doesn't take away from that. It is just great to have additional options and to be able to see and to be able to dream about the ball gowns and the mysteries and whatnot, and know we could play that too. It's an exciting thing when you find yourself like that.
Yeah, it really is. And for me, it helps me understand another point of view, which is always a good thing. That and one of my favorite writers is Charles Dickens. I love Victorian novels, and that's probably even more than the Regency era. I just am fascinated by that whole century, and but that's something he would do is try to help people understand the plight of the poor or the overlooked and those kinds of people. And yeah, he had his own share of issues and and prejudices and everything, but he was, I think, a few steps ahead of where society was at the time, and that's kind of for me where I go back and like, yeah, he's got some ugly stuff in his life, but there's a lot of ugly everywhere. Not to excuse it, but
yeah,
look at the good he's trying to do. Yeah,
a realistic thing is people are good and bad. And it's like, what do you focus on? A truthful lens is a truthful lens. And even when I tell my stories, I've had people like, why did you put that in there? I'd rather the real story be out, right? There's too much whitewashing, too much obscuring, too much never mentioning. And then what people get to read is such a slimmed down, pristine version. They don't understand the complex human nature, the complex history. And history is often stranger than fiction because things will happen and you're like, this is real, but I don't believe it. And it's one reason I almost always put in footnotes or end notes of every novel, because the strange things are actually often true and no one will believe it because of the ways we've been conditioned. So I applaud anybody who just read and find out and open doors. And once again, it doesn't take away from anything else. There is enough room at the table for all kind of stories. And I'm just excited we're living in a time frame where I'm getting to tell these stories about the diversity in these particular eras.
More than ever, I'm excited now to read your book. So I can't wait. We've been talking about a little bit about Jane Austen. Now I have to ask, do you have a favorite Jane Austen novel?
It is Pride and Prejudice.
It's Pride and Prejudice, yeah.
Pride and Prejudice. She didn't finish Sanditon. I want to know what happened.
Oh, yeah. No, I haven't read that because I heard it's not finished, and I'm like, man. Do I want to just read what she wrote or just?
It's cool. Trust me, it's cool. It's cool. But you always wonder, like, well, what happened? Are they ever going to get back together? And those kind of things. I want to know. But...
Yeah. Come on, Jane. Now, see, I read Dickens's unfinished novel, The Mystery of Edwin Drood. And it was about half done, and it it's just left. The murder mystery is unsolved, and you're like, oh well, how is that going to get wrapped up? And I had to read it because I'd read everything else by him, and but then on the other hand, I'm like, oh well, now I feel unfinished.
But, you might think about writing it yourself.
There you go. Finish the story. Yeah. I'll have. I don't know if I could reach his genius though, but at least if for no other reason for myself, I could write it for myself, and that might work. Yeah. There you go.
I used to do fanfic on stories, change the endings because I didn't like them.
Oh. Perfect.
So.
That's great. I like that. Pride and Prejudice is really good. I think it's maybe not my favorite, but it's I think her best written.
Oh, wait a minute. So your favorite would probably be Persuasion?
No, it's Emma. I like Emma.
Emma. Okay, that was the other.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and the reason is because that was the first one I experienced. I saw the movie that came out in like '97, I think it was '96 with Gwyneth Paltrow. I like. Yeah, my sister made me watch it, and then I'm sitting there trying not to cry at the end. I'm like, wait, this is good. I thought this was going to be a girl movie. Yeah. So,
yay, team sister. Yes.
that's right. Yeah, she really set me straight on a few things. So, but yeah, I like Emma, Pride and Prejudice, and Persuasion are probably my top three. So,
Yes.
yeah, good stories though. I've read them all, and just what a fantastic writer she is. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. Well, I also wanted to talk a little bit about your website because I was looking around there today to get some info for your introduction. And there's a lot of different tabs you can do to read and find out about her books and everything. But there's one called it's called My Research. And it covers a wide gambit of topics of the Regency era. Just about any topic you can imagine is there. So I wanted to read from your website. Turbulence marked the Regency period in England and her colonies, West Indies, South Africa, and India. The British monarchy fought the peoples of the peninsula and amongst themselves. The church wrestled with heresy as the worshippers warred with new methods of praise and fellowship. Humanity struggled with the resentment of the classes, the rise of new industries, and the decline of tried and true trades. People battled with addiction, all manner of vice, and the need to discover their better angels. The blight of slavery raged. Through it all, people survived and found ways to thrive, even when they were of a marginalized race and sex. This is my effort to fight the patriarchy. This time needs to be studied. Stories of triumph need to be recorded. We need to interact with readers, talk about the importance of our history, our sisterhoods, and our collective power as a people. And I just thought that was a really powerful kind of opening statement of what drives your research. But also I was kind of a little heartbroken in some ways too, to see that there's not really a lot that's changed from our society today, as far, especially just some of the class struggles, the belittling of other people, it continues on. But I love that you're making that relevant. I'm studying this period, and here's why, because I think in some ways we're still fighting those battles.
If you don't learn a lesson, it comes back. It may look slightly different. That's why I think it's so important for us to know our history, because there's no new struggle under the sun. And looking how other people were successful or even sometimes failed at abolishing a blight, changing their world, I think is important. It'll keep us, seeking our better angels. And, sometimes this research is hard. It's hard to find. It's getting easier. More things are coming online. But I think more people should be writing and trying to figure out where to start writing is often hard. So I was like, look, here's my research. Here's some of the cool things that I found. Maybe it will answer a question or spark that imagination so that you can get writing in this. I'm done with gatekeepers, right? And so if I can help in some small way to get another writer going, or even another reader, just to expand their lens, I'm going to try it. I'm going to do it. And so my website is a mammoth, so it's got everything.
Yeah. Well, especially if you love Regency novels and want to understand the historical context, check out her research page. I mean, this should be a published book, but thank you for giving it to us for free. So
No problem.
Yeah. Now, in your research, did you ever come across anything that surprised you or inspired you? Or
well, the whole abolition movement stopping, that shocked the heck out of me, because you wouldn't expect, Haiti small little colony, small, way, way, way far. But the ramifications are happen, in America, in Britain, in Spain and France, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm.
That shocked me that William Wilberforce, the founder, the lead guy in the abolition movement worldwide, is stumbled, doesn't know what to do. That shocked the heck out of me. So it's like it's the oddball things, right? So like there was one time I was looking up something where somebody had painted buttons, right? Painted buttons, and I'm like, who would take the time to paint a button? Apparently that was a thing. And how, then the engineer mind was, well, how was it done? How did you have to wash something with painted buttons? What kind of paint was it? The technique, things that y'all will never see in a book, because it's like, no, you're not here for that. It may end up being like one or two sentences, all this research.
Yeah.
But my mind is like, I need to figure it out. I gotta know. And so I'm always surprised. Always surprised about the things that I discover, because history is strange. It's wild. It's beyond your comprehension of the things that could possibly happen. So once again, if you ever in your mind, that didn't, no, it did. That couldn't, no, it did. They would never, no, they did.
All right. Well, I'll send them to your website then if I hear that. So now, do you have any words of advice for any new and upcoming writers?
Write the book of your heart. Don't write to market. I have friends who do write to market very successfully. Sometimes they will struggle when the market change, and the market will change 1,000,000 times. And if something you see popular and hot right now, by the time you get in the system, it may not necessarily be popular and hot. So my thing is, write the book of your heart. Write the things you're passionate about. An editor, an agent, a reader will know when you're phoning it in. They can tell the difference between whether you really were excited and wanted to write this book, or you felt you had to write this book, or something. A reader particularly will know. So always write. You're your first reader. You're your first cheerleader. You need to write the book of your heart, because the pain of the process, the editing, the back and forth, the struggle over how your heroine, like Lady Abby, struggling how much to tell in a first book, how to make sure I plant the seed so that you know that Abigail's world is complicated, that she's complicated, her family is complicated, without making the story so heavy that the reader gets bogged down in details and things like that. So, but it's worth the work because you love what you're writing. And I love Lady Worthing's world. And so I hope the readers will get it and want it, because it's one of the books of my heart. Now, I will say the book of heart about whatever I'm writing at the moment in time. So my heart is very big. But I'm very passionate about the things I write. And I think that will get you through. It'll get you through the rejections. It'll get you through a bad review. Being passionate about what you write.
I mean, being passionate about it brings a whole set of joy to it too, to the whole process. I don't know about you. I don't enjoy things that I don't like. It's like, oh, this is a dreary. But yeah, I love that. Write the book of your heart. I like that. The final question is, when did you discover that words and stories held power?
It's one of these things, like I said, when I read Sanditon and saw myself, that was a moment. But then I get that moment again when readers will write me. I was giving a talk about Sister Mother Warrior, and a woman from Haiti was in the audience, and she came up to me afterwards, and she's crying, and she says, "We always hear about the men. We never hear about the women who fought." And she's from Haiti, and this is her history that I'm telling. And she's in tears. You feel so seen and you feel the reader being seen in ways that is so unexpected. So every journey is different and every story is different, and it touches readers in new and unique ways, and it makes it alive every time that happens, more so. So it's just, there's not one moment I can pick because it is evolving and it's continuing. My books now are getting translated in Romanian and French and Portuguese, and people are DMing me on Instagram and they're telling me how much they love it. Of course, I have to translate what they wrote to me. So I'm like, awesome, it does say hate it? Are you telling me, is this a hate message? No, it's just. Yeah. But you see that, and they're seeing themselves in ways that they hadn't before, and it is exciting.
Well, that's neat. And then you begin to realize your words have changed a life in someone on the other side of the world, and I brought joy. That's incredible. Yeah,
I brought joy for a moment, or I brought a moment for somebody to think about, and to me that means the world.
Oh, awesome. Now, okay, everyone, run out, buy all of her books, read them. Murder at Westminster is out now by the time this episode drops. So run down to your local bookshop, independent bookshop. I know you're a fan of those. So if you can, support your local businesses. Obviously, do that if you can. That's always much appreciated. All right. Well, Vanessa, thank you for coming on the show, and I had no idea where this conversation was going to go, but that's why I love it.
I love it. Yes, I'm on revision break, so I had no idea where it was going to go either.
Yeah. Right. So, all right. Well, thank you for coming on, and if folks want to find out more about you, go to I think it's VanessaRiley.com.
Mm-hmm. Is that correct? VanessaRiley.com. I'm very active on Instagram, so follow me on Instagram, Vanessa Riley Author. Somewhat active on Twitter, Vanessa Riley, and Facebook is a hot mess, so you can find me somewhere over there.
Okay. Yeah, I hear you. So you can reach out to her on her socials, and I know she'll be happy to interact with you. So, all right, Vanessa, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much, Art, for having me.